Welcome to today's webinar on SketchUp for home performance. So specifically today I'm going to be talking about how you can use SketchUp in the free version to help your takeoffs for ratings, for manual J's, for explaining how home performance works to your clients, whether they be architects or homeowners or HVAC professionals or whoever. This is a really brilliant tool and it's made my life easier and cooler as a result, so I'm going to show you. First thing that you need to do is go to sketchup.com. As you can see right here in the menu bar, you go to sketchup.com and you will find the SketchUp site. You want to download SketchUp if you haven't already. And this is super easy. You have to give them your contact information, obviously. You plan to use SketchUp for. Please select whether it's professional work, personal projects, or educational use. I chose educational use because I want the option to download the full SketchUp Pro, which is something like, it's less than $1,000 for that thing, which is amazing because it's essentially CAD. So SketchUp Make is the free version. That's the one that I want you to download. So that's going to be here. You're going to select your operating system, etc., give them your information, and then you'll be able to download. So you're going to choose SketchUp Make, not SketchUp Pro. And the reason for that is when you choose SketchUp Pro, you get 8 hours, and then it says you can't use this anymore, and then you have to come back and download Make. You can always upgrade to Pro later if you want to. That's much easier. So once you have done this, you will open up SketchUp, and you can see here, this is the beginning of what SketchUp looks like. I've got my toolbar up here. I'm going to show you this real quick. First thing is, we have, oh my goodness, excuse me. We have the pointer. You can always get back to the pointer by pressing the space bar, just like that. I have the eraser, the drawing tool, whether it's for lines or freehand. Line is what we're going to be working with mostly since we're dealing with houses, which are hopefully straight lines. We've got all kinds of different drawing tools, push, pull, creating rectangles, etc., etc. I'm going to skip over here for a moment. This one is going to be important. That's the dimension tool, and if you're working with plans, which I will show you how to do, this can make it easier. The resize tool, both of those are good. Adding text is useful, and that's here. You can color things with paint to kind of draw your client's attention to certain elements in the model. You can rotate it, you can move it, you can look closer at it, etc., etc. And then you can also even geotag these things. If you're building something that's real, you can put it in its place in the universe, which is kind of neato. I'm going to move my computer real quick here. Hang on one second. All right. So now what we're going to do is get started with the views. I want you to get familiar with these shortcut commands. So right here, command plus left bracket. That will get you to include everything in the field. So as you can see, when I move off axis, I come over here and then I want to get back to where everything makes sense again. All I have to do is enter command and hold down the command key, which is right next to the alt key, and press the left bracket, bam, and it gets me back to square one. That will mean that everything in my 3D model is encapsulated in the screen. It's all contained there, and I can see everything that's on the field. Now, I'm going to get going with building a little house. I can either click the pencil, or I can do Command L, and that will select it for me. Draw a line. So Command L is to draw a line. I always want to start at the origin, which is the intersection of my of all three planes here. I can only see two of the planes right now, and so I'm going to show you this. Green is essentially X, or excuse me, red is X, green is Y, and then I've got one that's coming toward me, which I'm going to switch real quick. This is blue. That's vertical. So if I had a little guy standing here, which you will see when you open this up for the first time, it will be in this view, which is a three-dimensional view. I'm going to go back to this since we're working with plans for a moment. I'm going to go ahead and start this line, and I'm going to follow one of the axes. If I go off the axis, you can see that it wants to snap to the axis here. So that's a good thing, and I want to let it do that. And I can either draw it until it's as long as I want, or I can go ahead and just enter the length that I want. Let's say, for example, that I'm going for a Chicago style 2-flat, and it's a 50-foot long side. You can see that down in the bottom right, it says length 50, and then I hit enter. Bam. Now, this is in the point where I realize that, ooh, this is really short for 50 feet. I'm way, way out there. So again, I hit Control left bracket and it fills the screen. And I can see how long this thing is again. It's 4 foot 2 inches. That is 50 inches. So get into my other, excuse me, shortcuts here. Command plus I is looking at the elements. So I want to open this up. Oh my goodness, excuse me. All right, good. So again, I'm in line mode and I want to get back to just my pointer. I hit spacebar and it'll get me back to normal. So I have this line right here, and if I hit Command I, it'll show me the entity info. Excuse me. Show me the entity info, which you can see right here. This is length 4 foot 2 inches. That's 50 inches. Now I want to not be dealing in inches. I told it 50, and it assumed that I meant 50 inches. So if I hit Command plus Shift plus I, so I hold down the Command and the Shift buttons, and then I hit I, it'll tell me about the model in general. And the units that I happen to be in right now are architectural. I don't necessarily want that. I might want to go for what I personally would do is engineering, and that will assume that every measurement that if I put 50 in there, it'll say, oh, you mean 50 feet, right? If I say 50.5 feet, I'd say 50.5, and it says, yep, that's 50 feet, 6 inches. So it'll be working in engineering. I prefer this. You can choose to work in architectural, and what you would need to do at that point, you can tell it what precision you want, you can snap to certain lengths, etc., etc. What we're going to do at this point is, I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to go back into line, so I'm going to hit Command L, and I'm going to draw another line. This one's going to start at the origin, and it's going to go out here, and I'm going to put into my field here, I'm going to go ahead and type 50 feet with a single apostrophe. If I was to go 50 feet 6 inches, then it would enter 50.5 feet. Of course, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do 50 feet. Bam. Now it knows, oh, you're talking about feet because of what I did with the apostrophe. Okay, so I'm drawing a line and I don't mean to. Again, to get back to normal, I hit the spacebar, and now I can again hit Command left bracket, and it'll fill the screen with my 4 foot long line over here and my 50 foot long line here. Now let's go ahead and keep connecting these. I want to hit Command L and get back into line mode. Start at the endpoint. It'll always snap to the end of some line that you've drawn. And if I want to go to the end here, I want to go along the red axis, which is the same axis that my lower line is on. And I want to meet up with the bottom, with the same place where this ends. All I have to do is make it hit the red axis, and you can see how it changes color. When it's on the red axis, it turns red. If it's on the green axis, it turns green. If it's on the blue axis, which is hard to make it do when we're in 3D, we're in 2D mode here, but I can do that here. If it's on the blue axis, it turns blue, and it'll tell you on whatever axis you're on. So I'm going to go back here, and I want to go to the same point that this is at. I can simply get it on the axis that I want, hit Shift, and it'll lock it in that axis. Now I can do whatever I want out here and select the endpoint here. Bam! And now I can finish off my rectangle. Like so. And once I have closed the circuit of the lines, it'll make it a rectangular object, and it'll actually fill in the middle of it. So now I can simply come in here, and like you saw me do before, I can click on a line and see what the entity info is on that line. This line happens to be 50 feet long. I can also click on the area that's contained within those 4 lines, and it'll tell me what the area is in square footage. That comes in very handy, obviously. Now, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to 3D mode, which, again, I hit Command. We've used Command and left bracket. Command and I, that's the elements. Command Shift and I, that's the model info. Command and 1, Command 2, Command 3, Command 4, Command 5, 6 are all the views. So I can see all the views of this object if I come through here and start using Command 5, Command 6, Command 7. Now 7 is your classic 3D model. It's like a, all of the axes are represented here. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to go Command left bracket, fill the screen with this thing. I'm going to hit Command L and go back into line mode. And I'm going to start at my endpoint and draw up the blue axis for 10 feet. And I just hit 1, 0. I want to hit my apostrophe so that it knows I'm talking about feet. And I hit enter, and now I can hit Command left bracket, and I fill up my screen. I would do this exact same function for all of these. Start there, go up the blue axis, and you can see again how it turns blue. Go up and make it 10 feet. Bam. I can go all the way around all of these points and make walls out of this. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Up the blue axis, 10 feet. Up the blue axis, 10 feet. Bam. Now, why does this look funny? It's because of the perspective that we're using. This thing is 50 feet long, so it's trying to be as true to it as possible. You can see when we move into side view here that it actually does start to make sense. So now I can start connecting my endpoints. Bam. Now I have a rectangle that's essentially an apartment building. Hit spacebar to get it out, and now I can start looking around my 3D model by using the rotate function, which is this one right up here. It's called orbit. Okay, so I can orbit around this. I can zoom in and out using the same old zoom functions that you have on your mouse or on your trackpad. And again, I can fill the entire screen with it by hitting Command left bracket. Okay, good. So now I'm going to go back to view number 1. So now we're looking down on it from above. Again, I can color this thing if I wanted to make it look pretty. I can add roofs, etc. We're going to get to all that in a moment. What I want to do first is back out of here. In order to erase everything, I can simply draw a square around it, and it selects everything, and you can see that when I do like so. Everything is selected. Bam. Now, before I do that and get rid of it, I want to show you that you can group this entire thing into one group that will help you understand the volume. So again, I draw a square around it, and then I right-click on the object, and I say, make component, or excuse me, make group. And now it'll tell me what the volume of this object is. And I can see that it's 2,083.33 cubic feet. That is super awesome. So now I can use this to start building 3D models and finding out information, not just building something that looks pretty, but it's actually useful to me in the field and in the office. So I'm going to show you the most basic version of this. Here is a firehouse that's being turned into a home, and you can see the little man that's standing there. This is what your model is going to look like when you open it up for the first time. Here is my basement, here is my first floor, here is my second floor. So I basically map these out since they're square. I know that I mapped this line out, and it's 29.333 feet long, and it's 24.583 feet wide. The area of the basement floor is 721 square feet, etc., etc. Now, all I have to do at this point is put these things on top of each other, or add them together to find out the square footage of the total house. And not only that, but I then take these three things, copy them, copy them, and I go to Command M, and that's my, oh my goodness, that's not what I meant to do, excuse me, just M. M is move. So if I grab this thing, and while I'm moving it, I hit Alt, that will make a copy of it automatically. So I can move this out here another, 150 feet. Hit Enter, and it'll plant it. Come on, baby. Plant. Okay, good. Now again, I hit spacebar to get out of that mode. And now I can build the walls. Now I'm not going to bore you with the walls because I already showed you how to do that. You hit Command L to draw walls. You go up on the blue axis, let's say 8 feet. You go I'm still a little clumsy with this thing sometimes. Up 8 feet. You go up 8 feet. Now this thing that keeps happening where I draw this and then it keeps going, that's a function that I've actually activated on this. You can turn that off again in the model info. Now, you see how this is working. I'm going to go to the actual model that is finished, and this is what it will look like right here when you're done with it. So I have simply added the walls, this wall heights, to all of these, and now I can figure out what my wall areas are. So if I wanted to figure out on this addition here on the side of the first floor, how big is that wall? I know that it is 335.309 square feet. I can start adding things together by holding on the Shift button, and I can select all the walls on the first floor. And I can find out exactly how big all the walls are by just simply adding them up. Now, this saves me a lot of work. So, last thing that I'm going to do with this is build my 3D model, which is this stacked on top of this, stacked on top of this. And that's right here. So again, to move components, and I will show you how to do this yourself, we hit spacebar to get back to my regular pointer. I'm going to grab this object here, and this thing has not been made into an entire component yet, so I'm going to need to get into a view that makes sense so that I can do this. I'm going to move this over with my hand tool. I'm going to select this entire thing, and again I'm going to right click and hit make group. Bam. Now this thing is a group. It's going to move as one piece. So I go back to Command 7 for my 3D view, and I hit M, which is move. And I want to move it. I'm going to select on the endpoint because I want this endpoint right here to end up on top of that endpoint, because I'm going to move this whole thing on top of this whole thing. So I'm going to select this endpoint, move it up, and again, I want to have it go exactly where I want it to go. So I'm going to start moving it up on the blue axis because it needs to be above this next door neighbor. And I'm going to hit Shift so that it locks it into the blue axis. Then I can do whatever I want. And I want to move it up so that it's in line with the next door neighbor vertically. Then I'm going to again move it this way along the red axis. And I'm going to lock it in with the Shift key and move it straight over to the endpoint. And now, as you can see, it is perfectly lined up on the edges on all four corners. So that's how easy that is. Now I've got this component stacked on top of this component, and I can tell what the entire volume of that is. And once I take these two things and put them on top of this, then I have this guy right here. Okay, and again, I have colored these to show the client that these are the areas that we are concerned about, because these are uninsulated areas as of right now. So we definitely want to take care of those. So I can call those out with specific colors, and at this point I'm going to move on to a slightly more complicated thing, which is working from plans. So I hope that this has been clear to you. Again, I want to go over the shortcuts. Command left bracket is fit everything into the screen. So I'm going to do that real quick here. Bam! You can see everything in this model. Command I is look at the entity info. And that's this little thing right down here that tells me that that component is 4,867 cubic feet, or that this slab floor is 721 square feet, or that this line right here is 31.583 feet long. Command Shift I is the model info. And that's what type of units am I using? Is this thing located somewhere? Dimensionally, what am I looking at? Fonts? What how do I want to spec this thing out? This is basically preferences. Okay, so I can get rid of this now that I've selected. And lastly, remember that Command plus L, and that's an L like that, is line, and M equals move. Okay, so that ends what I want to talk to you about there. We're going to go ahead and not save that. I'm going to show you the next thing in line, which is this. This is how you're going to start out looking at plans. Okay, now you're going to get, in the first place, a set of plans that looks like this. This set of plans is very complicated. This is a multifamily building that we're working on, and I need to start sampling units to model, or I want to pull out a couple of corner units and see how much insulation I'd need in order to pass performance code compliance. So what I can do is use Google SketchUp to help me do this. I can simply trace this thing so that I don't have to be going over to this screen, looking at how long, this is like 34.4 feet long, etc., etc., and I have to build this little weird shaped thing. I can simply import this image and trace over this unit. So let's do that right now. This is what it is going to look like in a moment. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my component that I made there. I'm going to get back to overhead view because I'm going to be using a 2D plan set. And I am going to go up to File, Import. And now I have to import a file that's like a JPEG or a TIFF or a PNG or a bitmap, something like that. So I'm going to select this. This is the plans, and you can see right here that's exactly what I want to import, so I'm going to be importing this. Now the problem here is that it doesn't know, number one, what type of object this is, what type of drawing. It doesn't know how big I want it to be. And obviously, since it's a set of architectural plans, it's very, very specific how big it needs to be because I want to draw to scale. If I'm going to be getting takeoffs from this and getting areas and volumes and wall lengths and window sizes and all that stuff, I definitely want to be having this thing be as accurate as possible because I don't want to be giving bad information. So when it comes in, it's going to first want to know, and the reason this is taking so long is because it's a big file. It's going to want to know where I want to put this. I always want to put it on the origin, which is the cross point of all of the planes. So I select the origin and I click it. Now the next thing that's going to happen is going to say, how big do you want this? And it'll ask me, do you want it at this here or here? So I'd simply just select whatever size I want. Again, click, and then it locks it in. So now it's oriented at the origin. That's where it has one of its corners. And it stretches however long I made it. Now I want to make sure that this thing is precise, so now I'm going to use this tool right here, which is the tape measure. So I select the tape measure. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom in on this drawing. I'm going to get rid of my entity info because I want to show you this thing real quick. Okay. Here is a length, 26 feet, 10 inches. Okay, actually, let's use this one, 25 feet, 4 inches. I'm going to select right there at the cross hatch. I'm going to move along the red axis, and I'm going to select right there. Now, it says that this thing, according to the size of it inside the 3D model, is 2 inches, or 2 feet, 9.5 inches wide. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and I'm going to tell it it's 25 feet, 4 inches. And then I hit enter, and it is going to resize this entire model. Do you want to resize the model? Yes. So now as you can see, I'm looking at white space, and that's because, number one, I want to get out of this tape measure mode, so I hit spacebar. And then I hit Command left bracket to fill the entire screen with my model. Now, when I come in here and look at a particular component, and let's go ahead and move this over here, this 26-foot, 10-inch section right here, I want to go ahead and draw a line, and I'm going to start it right at the cross section here. I'm going to go this far, and it says 26 feet and 9.5 inches. That is close enough for me. So right there, it's 10.5 inches, a little bit too far. So now this thing is totally scaled. Now all I have to do is like so. I hit escape to stop drawing that line. I'm going to go back in here. Let's say that I want to trace, let's pick one that's easy. Here, unit A09. Actually, that's super not easy, I apologize. Here, we're going to do this one. Number 66, right here. going to go ahead and get as close as I possibly can to it. Now all I have to do is go Command L for line, and I'm using my line tool, as you can see here, a little pencil. I'm going to start at the outside wall, as I'm building a rating with this. So outside wall, edge to edge. I'm moving along the red axis. I want to lock it to that axis by holding the Shift key, and you can see how it gets brighter when I do that. Go to the outside edge, and now it keeps on drawing. I'm drawing on the green axis now. I want to, again, lock it in by holding down the Shift key. I want to go all the way to here. It's drawing again. I hold down the Shift key. It goes to here. Hold down the Shift key. And it wants to lock there. It's snapping to this little point. That's because it sees something in the drawing that looks like a crosshatch. So that's fine. That's close enough. And my computer is thinking very hard right now. So you can see how cool this is. Now I'm going to finish this out for you just so you can feel comfortable that you know how to do this. But until my computer wakes back up, I'm going to have a problem. Okay, here we go. Back. Click. Click. And it automatically snaps. It says, oh, did you want to close up that box there? Yes, I do. And back and endpoint. And now, when I hit spacebar, I get my pointer back. I can hit Command I to go for the entity info. And when I click on this, it's going to tell me that my entity, this square footage, is 582.01 square feet. Bam! Right on the money. So now I can use this to build manual J's, to build REM models, to build energy models of any type. This is going to really, really help with the energy analysis of how this place is going to operate. Okay, so I hope that that makes sense. That is a super cool function of this. And as you can see, what I built out of that is this file, which has a bunch of different unit types in it. I can tell it instantly how big they are, how much exterior square wall square footage we've got, etc., etc. It's really, really useful. So I'm going to get rid of this. And now we're going to do the mother of all. We're going to go into manual J land. No, I don't want to save this. Let me get out of here. And here we are. Okay. So this is a house that is fairly complicated. This took me approximately 3 hours to build. Okay, it's worth it though, because I'm going to do a number of really cool things with this. First thing is, I have a really big house that's pretty gnarly looking on the plans, and I want to be able to wrap my head around how this house actually is going to be put together. Because, of course, I care about corners. Any place that's exposed, and corners are my big focus because I am an enclosure expert and an HVAC expert, and the HVAC, of course, depends on the enclosure, and the enclosure, of course, is going to depend on the shape that it assumes. So this architect happens to have put cantilevered floors in not one, but two little places. They've got a flat roof section right here at the back. We've got dormers in two different areas, and we have nothing but vaulted ceilings on the top. So as you can see, when we come here, this is my top floor right here, and you can see that it resembles this shape embedded inside the roof. That's because I really care about the vaulted ceilings inside this footprint that the third floor takes up. The rest of it is attic space, so I'm going to mostly be using walls for that. Now this takes practice, but this is where you can get to with this tool. So let's go ahead and explore. First of all, of course, I build the floor plans for each one of the floors. We've got basement, floor 1, floor 2, and floor 3, finished attic. Here's the little bump out section. I also have the 3D version of these with the wall heights, and it's all connected. Super, super simple. Again, it's just practice. It's moving along the axes. I could do it again right now. Take this right here, move up along the blue axis, and it'll tell me again when it's on the blue axis, and I just simply lock it in with the shift button and tell it how high I want that to be. 9 feet, and then I can simply keep on drawing, and I want to make sure that I'm in the right axis all the time. So I might just come around again, up, blue axis, 9 feet, bam. Okay, so once we have these 3D sections of the floors, then I put them all together like so. And I have also drawn in the rim joists, and I do that by simply putting these things on top of each other with a gap of 1 foot between them, and then I connect the dots to make sure that there is actual objects that are here. I can select all of the wall areas, select all the rim joist areas, etc. Really, really helpful. Okay, what I've done at the top here is map out the 3rd floor, and I know that the roof is going to be, let's say, 9 feet tall at the top. So what I can do is, now that the 3rd floor is sitting on top of the footprint of the 2nd floor, I'm going to have to build a roof on top of it, which is going to end up looking like this. And I've already built these 2 components, so I don't bore you out of your wits on this webinar. But I have built these, essentially, they're like stakes, so that you can see where you're working. If you're talking about like a lawn, you know, where the sprinkler heads are or where the natural gas line is, it's just a stake that sticks up out of the ground with a little flag on it that says, hey, this is where that thing is, because I'm going to bury this underneath this roof, and I want to be able to get back at it. So once I have built all these stakes, and let's say, for example, that the roof is going to be, like I said, no higher than 9 feet, I build the stakes to be 10 feet tall. That way, even with the roof on it, they will stick out of the top. So once we've done that, we can move down to this model, which, as you can see, has the outline, and that's because there used to be stakes in here. If I start ripping this thing apart, you'll see the wall for the 3rd floor inside there. This is really useful when you're building your manual J, because of course you have to put not just wall areas of this room, which happens to be on this wall 165 square feet. I also want to put in the roof area, which is not the whole thing, it's just this. Now this is, because it's such a difficult house, we have a problem in that some of the components don't actually line up with each other. So I'm going to need to work on this, but you can see it much clearer over here. You can get around this by doing some tricks with the model, but essentially if the planes twist at all, it doesn't allow that. It has to be a perfectly flat 2-dimensional plane. This one happens to be that, this one happens to be that, this one happens to be that. So you can essentially just add up all of the square footage of the roof for this portion of the dormer, and you would end up knowing exactly what that is, put that straight in your program, and you're done. Okay, so I hope that you can see how useful this program really can be. Definitely download it. Start playing with it. The best teacher is experience. So don't be afraid of it. Get in there and start working, and you'll be creating things that look like this in no time. Have fun. Happy testing. Thanks for watching.